Section 93 of Reviews by Oscar Wilde. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Rachel Ellen. Reviews by Oscar Wilde. Edited by Robert Ross. Section 93. The Poet's Corner. 10. The Pall Mall Gazette, June 24th, 1889. Is Mr. Alfred Austin among the Socialists? Has somebody converted the respectable editor of the respectable National Review? Has even dullness become revolutionary? From a poem in Mr. Austin's last volume this would seem to be the case. It is perhaps unfair to take our rhymers too seriously. Between the casual fancies of a poet and the callous facts of prose there is, or at least there should be, a wide difference. But since the poem in question, Two Visions, as Mr. Austin calls it, was begun in 1863 and revised in 1889, we may regard it as fully representative of Mr. Austin's mature views. He gives us, at any rate, in its somewhat lumbering and pedestrian verses, his conception of the perfect state. Fearless, unveiled, and unattended, strolled maidens to and fro, youths looked respect, but never bended, obsequiously low. And each with other, sans condition, held parley brief or long, without provoking coarse suspicion of marriage or of wrong. All were well clad, and none were better, and gems beheld I none, save where there hung a jewelled fetter, symbolic in the sun. I saw a noble-looking maiden close Dante's solemn book, and go with crate of linen laden, and wash it in the brook. Anon a broad-browed poet dragging a load of logs along, to warm his hearth withal not flagging in current of his song. Each one some handicraft attempted, or helped to till the soil, none but the aged were exempted from communistic toil. Such an expression as coarse suspicion of marriage is not very fortunate. The log-rolling poet of the 5th stanza is an ideal that we have already realized, and one in which we had but little comfort, and the 4th stanza leaves us in doubt whether Mr. Austin means that washerwomen are to take to reading Dante, or that students of Italian literature are to wash their own clothes. But on the whole, though Mr. Austin's vision of the Città Divina of the future is not very inspiriting, it is certainly extremely interesting as a sign of the times, and it is evident from the 2 concluding lines of the following stanzas that there will be no danger of the intellect being overworked. Age lorded not, nor rose the hectic up to the cheek of youth, but reigned throughout their dialectic sobriety of truth. And if a long-held contest tended to ill-defined result, it was by calm consent suspended, as over-difficult. Mr. Austin, however, has other moods, and perhaps he is at his best when he is writing about flowers. Occasionally he wearies the reader by tedious enumerations of plants, lacking indeed reticence and tact and selection in many of his descriptions, but, as a rule, he is very pleasant when he is babbling of green fields. How pretty these stanzas from the dedication are! When vines, just newly bourgeoned, link their hands to join the dance of spring, green lizards glisten from cleft and chink, and almond blossoms rosy pink cluster and perch ere taking wing. Where over strips of emerald wheat glimmer red peach and snowy pear, and nightingales all day long repeat their love-song not less glad than sweet, they chant in sorrow and gloom elsewhere. Where purple iris banners scale defending walls and crumbling ledge, and virgin windflowers, lithe and frail, now mantling red, now trembling pale, peep out from furrow and hide in hedge. Some of the sonnets also, notably one entitled When Acorns Fall, are very charming, and though, as a whole, Love's Widowhood is tedious and prolix, still it contains some very felicitous touches. We wish, however, that Mr. Austin would not write such lines as Pippins of every sort, and codlins manifold. Codlins manifold is a monstrous expression. Mr. W. J. Linton's fame as a wood engraver has somewhat obscured the merits of his poetry. His Clarabelle and Other Poems, published in 1865, is now a scarce book, and far more scarce is the collection of lyrics which he printed in 1887 at his own press and brought out under the title of Love Lore. The large and handsome volume that now lies before us contains nearly all these later poems, as well as a selection from Clarabelle and many renderings, in the original metre, of French poems ranging from the 13th century to our own day. A portrait of Mr. Linton is prefixed, and the book is dedicated to William Bell Scott, my friend for nearly 50 years. As a poet, Mr. Linton is always fanciful with a studied fancifulness, and often felicitous with a chance felicity. He is fascinated by our 17th century singers, and has, here and there, succeeded in catching something of their quaintness, and not a little of their charm. There is a pleasant flavour about his verse. It is entirely free from violence and from vagueness, those two besetting sins of so much modern poetry. It is clear in outline, and restrained in form, and, at its best, has much that is light and lovely about it. How graceful, for instance, this is: Bare feet, O fair white feet, O dawn-white feet, of her my hope may claim, barefooted through the dew she came, her love to meet. Star-glancing feet, the windflowers sweet might envy without shame, as through the grass they lightly came, her love to meet. O maiden sweet with flower-kissed feet, my heart your footstool name, barefooted through the dew she came, her love to meet. Vindicate Gemma, was Longfellow's advice to Miss Héloise Durant when she proposed to write a play about Dante. Longfellow, it may be remarked, was always on the side of domesticity. It was the secret of his popularity. We cannot say, however, that Miss Durant has made us like Gemma better. She is not exactly the Xantippe whom Boccaccio describes, but she is very boring, for all that. Gemma. The more thou meditat'st, more mad art thou. Clowns with their love can cheer poor wives' hearts more o'er black bread and goat's cheese than thou canst mine o'er red Vernaccia, spite all of thy learning. Care I how tortured spirits feel in hell? Dante. Thou torturedst mine? Gemma. Or how souls sing in heaven? Dante. Would I were there. Gemma. All folly, naught but folly. Dante. Thou canst not understand the mandates given to poets by their goddess Poesy. Gemma. Canst ne'er speak prose? Why daily clothe thy thoughts in strangest garb, as if thy wits played fool at masquerade, where no man knows a maid from matron? Fie on poets' mutterings. Dante (to himself). If then the soul absorbed at last to whole— Gemma. Fie! Fie, I say! Art thou bewitched? Dante. Oh, peace! Gemma. Dost thou deem me deaf and dumb? Dante. Oh, that thou wert! Dante is certainly rude, but Gemma is dreadful. The play is well meant, but it is lumbering and heavy, and the blank verse has absolutely no merit. Father O'Flynn and Other Irish Lyrics, by Mr. A. P. Graves, is a collection of poems in the style of Lover. Most of them are written in dialect, and, for the benefit of English readers, notes are appended in which the uninitiated are informed that brogue means a boot, that mavourneen means my dear, and that astor is a term of affection. Here is a specimen of Mr. Graves's work. Have you e'er a new song, my Limerick poet, to help us along wid this terrible boat, away over to Tork? Arrah, I understand, for all of your work, 'twill tighten you, boys, to cargo that sand to the overside strand, wid the current so strong, unless you've a song to lighten and brighten you, boys. It is a very dreary production, and does not lighten and brighten us a bit. The whole volume should be called The Lucubrations of a Stage Irishman. The anonymous author of The Judgment of the City is a sort of bad Blake, so at least his prelude seems to suggest. Time, the old viol-player, for ever thrills his ancient strings with the flying bow of fate, and thence much discord, but some music brings. His ancient strings are truth, love, hate, hope, fear, and his choicest melody is the song of the faithful seer. As he progresses, however, he develops into a kind of inferior Clough, and writes heavy hexameters upon modern subjects. Here for a moment stands in the light at the door of a playhouse, one who is dignified, masterly, hard in the pride of his station. Here, too, the stateliest of matrons, sour in the pride of her station, with them their daughter, sad-faced and listless, half crushed to their likeness. He has every form of sincerity except the sincerity of the artist, a defect that he shares with most of our popular writers. 1. Love's Widowhood and Other Poems, by Alfred Austin, Macmillan and Company. 2. Poems and Translations, by W. J. Linton, Nimmo. 3. Dante, a Dramatic Poem, by Heloise Durant, Kegan Paul. 4. Father O'Flynn and Other Irish Lyrics, by A. P. Graves, Swan, Sonnenschein and Company. 5. The Judgment of the City and Other Poems, Swan, Sonnenschein and Company. End of Section 93.